Hello everyone, this is Logan589XP here for the first episode of the Nin-Cast for 2021, and also the very first episode of Season 5 of the Nin-Cast. And today we are going to be kicking off this season and this year of the Nin-Cast by talking about Nintendo in 2021. But before we get into that, quick clarification. This was originally going to be a proper main channel video with editing and transitions and all the stuff I normally do. But because of reasons that I've explained on the community tab on YouTube as well as in recent streams over on Twitch, that is currently not really possible. So I've decided instead, because I don't want the idea to go to waste, and I feel like if I wait too long because of the aforementioned reasons, that by the time I can make the video on the main channel, it might not be worth doing anymore. So instead, I've decided to just do it here as a Nin-Cast, but like I was planning to do for that main channel version of the video, I'm going to be splitting this into two parts. Why am I doing that? Because of one change that I mainly want to do for the Nin-Cast, but I also want to do for the main channel as well. And that is, I want to kind of cut down on the length of the videos, mainly for the Nin-Cast, because like the Nin-Cast can go on for some time. This has been a thing for years. It's not anything new, but like the last Nin-Cast of the year, the 2020 retrospective, was like an hour and 30 minutes. No one wants to listen to me for an hour and 30 minutes. So here is what I'm planning for. This is not a guarantee. This is not a hard and fast rule. You know, we'll see if this actually pans out. But the plan is basically no more than 30 minutes. If it is longer than 30 minutes, we'll split it into, parts 2 or 3 or however long the video goes on for. So this is going to be part 1, and then we will have a part 2. We might have a part 3, but although I don't think that's going to be necessary unless some new stuff shows up. But yeah, I mainly plan for 2 parts here. So enough further ado, let's get right into it. But before we can actually talk about the games for Nintendo in 2021, there's one thing that absolutely has to be addressed, because we cannot talk about Nintendo in 2021 without acknowledging the big elephant in the room, and that is the future of Nintendo Direct. As we all know, last year in 2020, it was a very strange year, to say the very least. Even for Nintendo. We had Animal Crossing, we had a couple DLCs for Smash, but outside of that, there really wasn't that much in this grand scheme of like big new things. But the weirdest part about it was not necessarily the releases we got, but it was more so the way they announced them. Like, at first it started off kind of like they would normally do. Like, we had, of course, the Smash presentation for Byleth, and we had like a little mini direct and stuff. But then E3 was canceled. And from that point onward, all logic went out the window, and Nintendo decided instead of doing a regular direct, they would just split everything off and do them individually, which was really weird and really frustrating, and for a lot of people and all that stuff. And like, yeah, it was very weird last year. And this got people questioning, especially near the end. Are Nintendo Directs dead? Are they done for? Is this it? Because according to the internet, we didn't get a Direct last year. Yes and no. We did not get a normal Nintendo Direct, but we did get several Nintendo Directs, technically. The closest one to a proper Direct that we got last year was the mini Direct from March, which honestly was more of a regular Direct than a mini Direct anyway, because normally the mini Directs are like 15 minutes. That one was like 25 minutes. It was like closer to the length of a full Direct than a like mini Direct. So, for all practical purposes, that was the Nintendo Direct of last year, even though it wasn't. And of course, we had all the partner showcases, which were Nintendo Directs. They had the Nintendo Direct name, they had the Nintendo Direct announcer, they had all the trademarks of a Nintendo Direct. The only difference between them and a regular Nintendo Direct was that there was no first-party info. Well, with the exception of them mentioning, like, Hyrule Warriors at the very end of one of them, but that's because it was Koei Tecmo and stuff. But so technically that would be a partner showcase, but you get the point, right? Oh, and don't forget, we also got the 35th anniversary Mario Direct, and we got not that long ago, like a couple of weeks, we got the Super Nintendo World Direct. So, I don't know about you, but to me that tells me, no, Nintendo Directs are not dead. I think, this is my opinion, we'll see how it pans out. This is obviously the very beginning of the year. Anything can happen. I'm of the belief that what happened in 2020 was just a fluke. It was just an exception because of how weird the year was and whatever. I think things are going to return to the way they used to be in terms of the direct stuff. That doesn't mean they won't do random drops. That may still happen. But I think we will get actual directs again. And there's already been rumors about a direct this month. Now, of course, you might say, oh, Nintendo Direct rumors don't mean squat. We've had 1,000 of those. Yeah, but here's the difference. We haven't had a Nintendo Direct rumor in a long time. Like, in a while. So the very fact that we're getting rumors at all clearly tells me that something is actually going to be happening. Plus, there is also the whole thing where the Nintendo Direct section on the website, although you can no longer access it normally because they kind of removed it from the front page, but if you have the link, you can still go to it. And they still update it, because like the Super Nintendo Direct is in there and stuff. Apparently, some stuff in there was updated, and there has been a history for years where they update or they remove something, or if they remove something from like a Nintendo Direct playlist, or they add a privatized video to a Nintendo Direct playlist or something like that. There's a history of whenever they update something involving Nintendo Direct, that means something's going to happen. I'm not saying it happens every time, but there is a history where that has happened before. And people have been talking about how they've updated the website. The Nintendo Direct like website section. That combined with the fact that we've started to get rumors for the first time in, 6 months or whatever, ever since, when E3 was supposed to take place. It's time. I mean, of course it's time for a Direct, because, we haven't had a true one since September of 2019. So, it's obviously time for one, but I think it actually is going to happen. Now, will it happen this month? I don't know if it'll happen this month, but I do think it will happen, it will happen, within the next month or so. I do think it will be happening. I think we're going to go back to the way things used to be. And by the way, since it's also the anniversary, this happens kind of every year at this point, but also it's the anniversary. The Pokemon's 25th anniversary is also this year. So we're going to get, probably on February 26th or whatever, on the 26th on February, we'll get, a Pokemon Direct, and they'll announce whatever the heck the next game for the year is going to be, although we'll get into that later in the video. But there's some other things regarding Directs I do want to talk about. So yes, I do think proper Directs, full Directs, that are 40 minutes long and they have first party announcements, the stuff we're used to. I think that is absolutely coming back. But in addition, I also think the partner showcases have a good chance of coming back as well. Because here's the thing about the partner showcases. The partner showcases, on paper, are a good idea. The only reason people hated them at first was because because people were so starved for Nintendo info. But once we got that, once we got in early September, we got Age of Calamity announced. Once we got 3D All Stars and all that stuff announced, then people were cool with the partner showcases again. Especially the last couple of ones. I think the last one had Monster. That's the one that announced Monster Hunter Rise and also had Ori 2 and stuff. So yeah, so as long as people are getting Nintendo info some other way, people are cool with the partner showcases, because the partner showcases, there's technically nothing wrong with them. It's just more opportunities to announce more stuff, but not for Nintendo. That's the key word here, because let's be real here. Well, obviously there are third-party games people are excited for. What's the number one reason why people care about Nintendo Directs? The first-party stuff, of course. We want to see Prime 4 or Pikmin 4, assuming that game even still exists. Or Bayonetta 3, Breath of the Wild 2. We want to see the next Smash character. We want to see, all that stuff. And you're not going to get that stuff in a partner showcase. But people, I think, at this point are cool with the partner showcases. And I do think that we will probably be getting at least a couple of them. They'll probably be more spread out. Last year, we got one every month for 4 months. We got one in July, then August, then September, then October. But in the October one, they said, this is going to be our last partner showcase for the year. Emphasis on the word for the year. Translation, they're going to be doing these this year as well. But I do think we will get them in addition to proper directs. So the partner showcases will not just be a, quote, replacement or stand-in for a direct. I think we're going to get both. We probably won't get as many as we did last year, but I think we'll get at least like a couple of them. And last but not least, as far as directs go, what about E3? This one's honestly pretty simple for me. If we have, like assuming, the vaccines are out there and they're readily available and everyone can get them, and they're safe and everything, by the time E3 would happen, or by the time they would have to make a call on whether or not they're going to do E3 or not, I believe that if E3 is happening, then Nintendo will be there. Absolutely. Whether it's a physical E3 event or a digital E3 event. Either way, as long as E3 is happening in some form, I think Nintendo will have an E3 Direct. That being said, for all you naysayers out there that are talking about, oh, the Directs are dead, I will say this. Even though I don't think this is going to happen, I will say this. If we do not get a Nintendo Direct by E3 time, regardless of whether or not E3 happens or not, if we don't get one by June, then I think that the future of Nintendo Direct could be called into question. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to get Directs again. We'll get one either this month or in February or in March. We'll probably get a partner showcase or two. We'll get our E3 Direct if E3 actually happens. I think we're going to get Directs again. I think Directs are not dead. And, they've been using Directs. They're, again, we literally got a theme park Direct. I know it's not the same thing, but we got a Direct a couple weeks ago. Come on. Directs are not dead. They just didn't use them last year because for some reason they decided to split everything up. All this stuff a lot of that stuff we got that was separate. For example, Origami King, Min Min, Steve. Sephiroth would have still been Game Awards, but Min Min and probably Steve as well, because again having the two characters thing like they did with Hero and then Banjo, they would have had Min Min and then Steve. 3D All-Stars, all the different Mario stuff that was announced, Age of Calamity, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, all that stuff would have been in their E3 Direct if it actually happened. But they decided, instead of just doing an E3 Direct later, like everyone thought they were going to do, in August or something, instead they decided to just not do one, and they just decided to split everything up. But I think that was just for that year. I think for this year, they're going to go back to doing regular Directs. Again, we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I think that Directs are coming back, and 2020 was just a fluke. That's my take on Nintendo Direct. And now that we've talked about that, let's go ahead and get into the games. So first things first, let's talk about the continuation of Mario's 35th anniversary and the confirmed 2020 releases. And as far as Nintendo themselves are concerned, there's one confirmed 2021 release. Again, talking about Nintendo themselves, but I will bring up some of the third-party exclusives as well. Actually, I forgot to put it on here, but let me go. Actually, I'll just bring it up when we get to it. I already kind of brought it up anyway earlier. But, so yeah. First things first, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. This is, of course, the 3D World port that everyone saw coming from a mile away. And it's going to have a new mode called Bowser's Fury that we still don't really know anything about. Again, maybe that'll be elaborated on in a future Direct or something. But it's coming out, I believe, in early February. And yeah, so that's coming out. I don't really have that much to say about it because we don't even know that much about it. All we know is that it exists and there's a new mode. We don't know anything about that new mode, but yeah. So that's coming out in February. It's their only real confirmed release so far. Second, I'm going to bring this up real quick because I think it also kind of needs to be addressed even though it's not a new release. But let's go ahead and address the future of 3D All-Stars and also by extension, we'll go ahead and throw in the Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon translation that came out last year. Past March 31st, because everyone's made all the memes and we've all talked about the whole Mario's gonna die on March 31st. I call nonsense on that. I think in one way or another 3D All-Stars in particular will live past March 31st. They will do one of the following. They will either discontinue physical copies but keep the digital ones, so technically speaking they will have still been right the whole time by saying it was a limited time thing, because it technically will have still been limited time, but only for the physical version, but they'll keep the digital version up. Or two, and probably the one they're going to actually do, they're going to split up all the games into individual eShop releases for like $20 or something. Like, they'll throw, 64 being $20, that's pretty sketchy, but like Sunshine and Galaxy being $20 makes sense. Plus, the Wii games on the Wii U were like $20 too. Also, Galaxy 2 I think is absolutely coming, whether it's as DLC for 3D All-Stars or as an individual release on the eShop. I think it is coming, and I'm gonna say this: I think it's gonna come out the same day that the games go individual. Like, assuming that they get rid of 3D All-Stars, but they keep the games as individual releases on the eShop, I think it'll come out the same day. So, like, let's say, I don't know, April 15th or whatever is when they release 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy on the eShop for like $20 or whatever. They will release Galaxy 2 for $20 alongside it the same day, or something like that. Or maybe they'll offer DLC for people who already have 3D All-Stars. I don't know. But my point is, 3D All-Stars in some form is going to live beyond March 31st because of one simple reason. There is absolutely no reason to stop making it be available. Let me tell you why. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the best-selling game on the system, right? It's sold like 30 million units over the last 3.5, borderline 4 years now. Imagine if they discontinued imagine if they discontinued Deluxe 6 months in 2017. So like what? It would be discontinued in like August or September of 2017. They would have sold like 3-5 million, which is not a terrible number, but like nowhere near the 30 million. See, that's why I don't think they're going to get rid of 3D All-Stars, because they can make so much more money by just having it still be available. Why take it away when you can just get more money by keeping it being available? That's why I don't think they're going to get rid of it. I think it'll stay around in one form or another. Also, same thing applies to, and as for Fire Emblem, I think they're going to throw that on the Nintendo Switch Online. That's kind of obvious, but yeah, they're going to throw that on the Switch Online at some point. That'll be the future of that game, assuming they don't just keep that one up as well. Okay, moving on. I'm not going to talk too much about these because I don't know that much about these games, but in terms of third-party releases, we have No More Heroes 3, Bravely Default 2, and I forgot to put this on my list here, but of course Monster Hunter Rise. It's probably the most notable one that's coming out sooner. A lot of people are hyped for that game. A new demo just came out. There was actually a digital presentation that was basically a Monster Hunter Direct from what I heard, even though we got a Monster Hunter Direct for that game a couple of months ago during the last partner showcase, but anyways. But yeah, so that's basically all we have right now that's confirmed for 2021. 3D World Bowser's Fury, and No More Heroes 3, Bravely Default 2, and Monster Hunter Rise. 1 first-party game and 3 third-party games. And then, yeah, I talked a little bit about the whole 3D All-Stars and Fire Emblem thing. Next up, are there going to be any more Wii U ports? Because we've kind of got all the games already that make sense. We got New Super Mario Bros. U, we got 3D World coming, we have Splatoon 2 and Smash Ultimate that basically make porting Smash Wii U or Splatoon 1 not worth it. Same thing for Mario Maker 1. Oh yeah, Mario Maker 1 also is another game that's going to be dying on March 31st. Except that game, more so than the other ones, will actually kind of die on that day, because you'll still be able to play it, but you won't be able to buy it on the eShop anymore, and you won't be able to upload any more courses, but you'll still be able to play all the ones that are already there. Similar to when they shut down Miiverse and you couldn't upload anymore. You couldn't upload any more stages in Smash Wii U or 3DS, but you could still... in Wii U, because Stage Builder wasn't on 3DS. But you could still download them, and you can still upload, like, Miis and stuff. But anyways. So, yeah, we got that. We have, sorry, my brain's, like, dying right now trying to... we got Tropical Freeze, we got Pikmin 3, we have Captain Toad, we have Pokken, we have Hyrule Warriors, the original... We have all that. Like, the only game left that makes any real sense to port. Oh yeah, and we've gotten, like, you know, Woolly World on 3DS and stuff too, so they're not gonna put that on the Switch. So like, we've got most of the notable games. There's only one game missing though, and that of course is Xenoblade X. That's the only game left on the Wii U that makes sense to port. After that, that's it. There's no other games really to port that are worth porting. So, are we gonna get Xenoblade X this year? I'm gonna say no, because obviously Microsoft, you know, not too long ago finished Definitive Edition, and they're also working on future projects that I will get into at a later point, probably in part 2. But yeah, so like, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but it's definitely gonna come eventually. It's happening. Because I think Microsoft wants all of the games on one system. We got Xenoblade 2, we got the Torna Country or whatever it's called. We got Xenoblade Chronicles 1, the Definitive Edition now. And they are most likely working on Xenoblade 3, but again, we'll talk about that later. And Xenoblade X, you know, there's already been a desire from the people at Microsoft to bring it over, but, well, we'll see when that happens. It's definitely going to happen eventually. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but, like, 2022 is probably a good bet on that. Next up, Smash Ultimate. I'm not going to be talking too much about this one because we kind of just had some big Smash stuff not too long ago. But obviously we have the 3 remaining fighters for Volume 2. I'm not going to really sit here and predict who they're going to be because honestly, at this point, there's nothing to go off of. It can literally be anyone. It can be literally anyone. There's no pattern, there's no restrictions really at this point outside of, you know, they gotta be from a video game. So I'm not going to bother predicting them at this point, because if there's one thing I have learned over the last couple of years is that you can't predict Nintendo and Sakurai. I say Nintendo and Sakurai because Sakurai picked the base roster, but Nintendo picked the DLC, so that's why I'm saying both. But either way, yeah, I'm not going to even bother trying to predict who we're going to get. But I will say this. I do think we're probably going to be seeing third-party characters from here on out. We got Min Min at the beginning. Then we got Steve. Then we got Sephiroth like a couple weeks ago. So I kind of feel like, again, we'll see what happens. But I think that outside of maybe one more first party, it's going to be third party from here on out. I just get that feeling that it's going to be third party from here on out. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but that's just my guess. And last but not least, are we going to get Fighters Pass Volume 3? I don't think we're going to. Of course, I love Volume 3. You'd all love Volume 3. We all want more characters and more stages. Who doesn't? But here's why I don't think we're going to get Volume 3. Nintendo stretched out Volume 2 from just 2020 to 2021, whereas the first pass was mainly in 2019. Why would they do that if they knew they were going to be doing another pass? Simple, because they know that Volume 2 is their last DLC, so they want to stretch it for all it's worth. So that's why I don't think we're going to get Volume 3. I mean, for all we know, in like late 2021, when we get our last character, Sakurai will be like, oh, psych, we're going to do one more pass, but for real this time, it's going to be the last one. And like, obviously, if we do get a Volume 3, then that actually will be the last one. But I mean, realistically, there's no reason to stop doing DLC. This isn't like with Smash Wii U where a new console was on the horizon. Like, the next console is not happening for another, like, 3 to 4 years. So, like, why stop now? Why stop now? Now, if Sakurai has another project in the works that, again, we will talk about later in Part 2, then that's different. Like, if he has a new project he wants to work on. But as far as we can tell, he doesn't really have anything else in his pipeline aside from just working on the Smash DLC. So, like, why not do a Volume 3 or heck, even a Volume 4? Like, why not just run Smash Ultimate until the console is done? Like, why not? People would love that. Keeps the game alive for longer, keeps people interest alive for longer. It guarantees that there's always going to be at least some big piece of news in every direct. Like, why not? Why not? It would make the fans happy. It would obviously make Nintendo happy because they get, you know, big bucks from it. And, like, Sakurai clearly enjoys working on the DLC. It's like, it's a win-win for everyone. Why not do more DLC? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Volume 2 really is going to be the end of Ultimate. Outside of maybe a couple of balance patches, I think that once Volume 2 is done at the end of this year, then that's it. I think that's going to be the end of Ultimate, pretty much. And that's just how it is. Next up, the Pokemon 25th anniversary. So as I said earlier, Pokemon's having its 25th anniversary this year. And because of that, there is going to be... I mean, we've had it outside this before, but we're definitely going to get a, like, Pokemon Direct on, like, February 26th or 27th. And they'll obviously talk about, you know, their next mainline game for the year. And we'll get to that in a second. But let's go ahead and talk about the stuff that we do know that will probably be coming out this year. First up, Pokemon Snap 2, also known as New Pokemon Snap officially, was, you know, announced last year during the first Pokemon Presents, and people lost their minds. A game that people have wanted for over 20 years is finally happening, and it looks visually actually really good. Like, I already saw, of course, people be like, why does this game look way better than Sword and Shield? But, yeah, but memes aside, though, yeah, the game is coming, and obviously a lot of people are excited for it. We don't know when it's going to be coming out specifically, but it'll probably be coming out this year. I can't imagine that it wouldn't. I wouldn't even be surprised if it came out in, like, May. Like, that just kind of feels like a right time frame for that kind of game. Next up, the Detective Pikachu sequel. Yes, this is a thing that's actually happening. You don't remember? Well, I don't blame you, because they announced this back in, like, during, I think, the Pokemon press conference 2019. And basically, that was the last we ever heard of it. They have not said a word since then. And when I say Detective Pikachu sequel, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about, like, you know, the game that the movie is based on. They announced there was going to be a sequel on the Switch, and it is not materialized yet. But it is coming, and I mean, this year, like, it's been, you know, over a year since we last heard about it. It's probably ready to be talked about, so the Detective Pikachu sequel for this year, I think, makes sense. Next up is something that I don't know. Okay, I know why people are talking about it, but I think people no, this is not happening. I've heard some people talk about a Pokemon collection in the vein of 3D All-Stars, but for, you know, like Pokemon, like Gen 1, 2, and 3, for example, and, like, no. Now, I know what the logic is. Hey, 3D All-Stars did well, therefore, they'll do one for Pokemon. No, that is not how it works. Now, yes, we might get a 3D All-Stars for Zelda, and we'll talk about that later. But Pokemon? Like, no, no, they're not going to do that. We are not getting a Pokemon collection. Period. End of discussion. The only reason why it's getting talked about is because 3D All-Stars exists. If it was not for 3D All-Stars, this would not be talked about. Plus, unlike with Zelda, Pokemon, you know, is kind of its own thing. I don't think the Pokemon Company would jump on doing a Pokemon collection just because 3D All-Stars did well. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I just don't think they would happen. I just don't think it's happening, period. I think people are overthinking it. It's like, no, they're not doing a Pokemon collection. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe during the 25th anniversary direct, they'll announce that we're going to be bringing, you know, a collection, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't think we're getting it. I think people are only talking about it because 3D All-Stars exists. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's happening, period. And last but not least, next mainline game. Now, here's the thing about the next mainline game. We have absolutely no idea what it's going to be. It could be one of three things. It could be Let's Go Johto, something that actually my friend really wants to be a thing, even though I'm kind of surprised that he wants it to be a thing. The long-awaited Sinnoh remakes, which of course is the one I would probably be the most for, since my first Pokemon game was Diamond back in 2010, when I was 10. Hey, I'm the same age as Ash, or at least I was the same age as Ash, obviously not anymore. I'm actually going to be hitting 2021 here on the 29th, so that's going to be kind of interesting to think that I'm going to be 21 in a couple of weeks. But anyways. So yeah, Let's Go Johto, Sinnoh remakes, or Gen 9. I can't. It can't be Gen 9. It can't be. That's too soon, right? It's too soon for it to be Gen 9. Oh, and there's one other thing. It could also be more DLC for Sword and Shield. I don't think that's happening for one reason. Late last year, after the Crown Tundra came out, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company re-released Sword and Shield with the DLC on the cart. Not with a DLC code. No, it was on the cart. They literally manufactured new cartridges that was Sword and Shield with all of the DLC installed on the cart. Which I think is actually really cool. Like, I mean, it would have been fine if they just did like a little code, but I like that it's on the cart. because it's kind of a future-proofing type thing where, you know, like 30, 40 years from now when the Switch servers are long dead, you'll still be able to play that DLC. So I think that's something I think is kind of cool. You know, assuming that you didn't already have it downloaded or whatever. But yeah, for that, so basically, they've released a Sword and Shield Complete Edition already. Why would they do more DLC? Because if they do more DLC, then they gotta basically make another Complete Edition again. So it's like, they're not gonna do that. So yeah, I think Sword and Shield is done. I don't think we're gonna be getting any more DLC. I don't think it's gonna be Let's Go Johto either, because I think Let's Go was just a, like, that was just because they wanted to have a Pokemon game out sooner than the Gen 9, or sorry, Gen 8, Sword and Shield, and also because, you know, capitalizing on Kanto and stuff. But I think that's it. I don't think we're gonna get a Johto, because Johto wouldn't have nearly the same draw as Kanto would for, like, the general, you know, Pokemon player base. As for the Sinnoh remakes, look, I want remakes too, but I don't think that's happening either. Like, I don't think any of the stuff, I don't think it's going to be Let's Go Johto, I don't think it's going to be Sinnoh remakes, and I don't think it's going to be Gen 9, but if it's not any of those, then what is it going to be? Because there's clearly going to be a mainline game, they're not going to skip it like in 2015. At least, I don't think they're going to. Maybe they will, but I don't think they're going to skip a year. There's got to be a mainline game, especially because it's the 25th anniversary, because they're going to want to, you know, hype that up. 25th anniversary, new game. Like what they did for Sun and Moon. But I don't know. I mean, it could be any one of... It's probably one of those three. But if it's not one of those three, then I don't know what it's going to be. But yeah, so Pokemon 25th Anniversary, I have no idea what they're really going to do for that. So that'll definitely be interesting to see in February once we get the Direct, most likely. Next up, another anniversary happening this year. The Zelda 35th Anniversary. This is the one I'm definitely more interested in, because this could also mark the debut of a title we have wanted to play for quite some time now, and you probably know what I'm talking about. But first, we'll start off with the first one. Age of Calamity DLC. Will we get Age of Calamity DLC? I'm going to say no. I thought we were going to get DLC for sure, because the last Hyrule Warriors had like 2 season passes across 2 years. Like, why would they not do one for this game? But the very fact that the game has not gotten a single update since launch, even though it could kind of use it, because Age of Calamity is good, but performance... performance. Yeah, that game really needs a Switch Pro or better optimization or both. But we'll talk about that also later on. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get DLC, because the idea behind Age of Calamity was less a, like, you know, arcade, you know, hey, just pick whatever, like, character you like and play, and it's supposed to be more of a, like, proper entry in the series, so to speak. So for that reason, I think at this point they're not doing DLC at all. I think the game is just gonna stay there. Like, that's just the game. There's not gonna be any DLC. I don't even think there's gonna be any updates at this point. Like, I think the game is just done. So yeah, that's my take on that. I thought if we were gonna get Age of Calamity DLC, it would have been at the Game Awards, and we didn't get the Game Awards, so I don't think it's happening. Next up, I already talked about this a little bit, but Zelda 3D All-Stars. Now, unlike the Pokemon collection, this is absolutely happening. Absolutely. In fact, I'm gonna tell you what games are gonna be in it. We're gonna get Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, the original N64 versions at 720p at 20 FPS, because, you know, they ran at 20 FPS on, you know, on the N64, but they'll be 720p like Mario 64 is on 3D All-Stars. And then we'll get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess ported from Wii U, which people have wanted for a while now. See, I guess that's the other Wii U port I probably could have mentioned, was like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but that wasn't a Wii U port. That was a port of a port, right? You know, they ported the game from GameCube to the Wii U, and then now they'll take it from Wii U to Switch. But you get the point, right? So yeah, Ocarina of Time and 64 version, Majora's Mask and 64 version, and then Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD from the Wii U, just transplanted onto the Switch with minor alterations. That is why I think 3D All-Star, I think it's going to literally be the exact same as basically it was for Mario, but it'll just be for Zelda. Like, it'll probably have a similar UI, it'll have the soundtrack thing, and again, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, both the N64 versions. I'd rather it be the 3D versions, but let's be real here, that's not happening. So yeah, the original N64 versions of those games, and then Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. I think this is absolutely happening. It's going to probably come out the same time 3D All-Stars did in like September. And unfortunately, it's probably also going to have a stupid limited time release. Even though, once again, like I talked about with 3D All-Stars, it might have a limited time release, but it won't actually be limited time because, again, they'll just sell it separately on the eShop in like 2022 or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I do think, unlike the Pokemon collection, because again, the Pokemon Company is like its own thing and everything, Zelda is Nintendo, so I do think that there will absolutely be a 3D All-Stars for Zelda. And it'll have those games, and it'll probably come out around the same time, and it'll be limited time release, and everyone will complain about it. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen there. Also, this is not something I think is necessarily going to happen this year, but maybe something that would happen in the future. I mean, we already got a bunch of the game. We got, the Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and A Link to the Past on, the not the virtual console, the Nintendo Switch Online. We got the Link's Awakening remake that came out in 2019. And then we'll have Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess in the 3D collection. And then, of course, we have Breath of the Wild, and we're going to have the sequel, which we'll talk about in a second. Which means the only Zelda game, the only mainline Zelda game, outside of, like, the Oracle games and Minish Cap, like the main console games, the only console game that will not be on the system will be Skyward Sword. And I kind of thought that Skyward Sword's time had passed. Like, I think that would have made more sense on the Wii U, because then they could have had Wii remote compatibility, but I would not be surprised if we got Skyward Sword HD. It'll be its own individual thing. It will not be a part of 3D All-Stars. Of course, a part of the Zelda 3D All-Stars. If it is a part of that, then that's obviously awesome, but I don't think that's happening. I think Skyward Sword will be its own individual release in, like, 2022. If it does happen. If it doesn't happen, then, whatever. But if it does happen, I'm guessing it'll be 2022 as its own individual release. And last but not least, here to close out part 1, because we are at the 36-minute mark, and I've kind of already, I've already passed the 30-minute mark here. I said I want to have it be 30 minutes, and yeah, so let's go ahead and cap off this, part 1 of the discussion here with Breath of the Wild 2. Is it finally happening? Is it happening this year? I'm going to say yes. And here's why. Because I thought it was going to happen last year. But that was before the pandemic, and that was also before Age of Calamity existed. Now that I know Age of Calamity existed, whether or not the pandemic happened or not, we are not getting... We were never going to be getting that game in 2020 because Age of Calamity existed. Why would they release Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild 2 in the same year? They wouldn't do that. It doesn't make any sense. But this year, especially because it's the 35th anniversary, it has to be this year. It has to be this year. The only way it doesn't come out this year is if it gets delayed. Like, they'll announce it'll be coming out this year, and then in, like, September, they'll be like, oh, sorry, guys, we need a couple more months. It'll come out in, like, March of 2022. That's the only way I can see it not coming out this year. Because outside that, it has to be this year. It has to be this year. It has to be this year. But we'll see about that. So, yeah, that right there is part 1 of my discussion here on Nintendo in 2021. I want to try and keep these, again, shorter than I normally do. So, yeah, this is part 1. I'll be recording part 2 right after this, and I'll probably be uploading part 2 at the same time I upload part 1. So for those of you who are watching part 1 right now on YouTube, do not worry, you can jump immediately to part 2. I'll probably even put a link to it in the description of this video, and vice versa. I'll put a link to part 1 in the description of the part 2 video. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed part 1. What do you guys think of what I've talked about? Do you think Directs are going to be coming back? Do you think 3D All-Stars is going to survive past March 31st? Do you think we're going to be getting Breath of the Wild 2 this year? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in part 2. And this is Logan589XP, signing off. Oh, signing off. What is this, Multimedia J? Signing off. Thanks for stopping by. Oh my god. This is Logan589XP, and I'll see you guys next time.